the day that Charlie died, the angels wept, but those tears have been turned into fire in our hearts. And that fire burns with a righteous fury that our enemies cannot comprehend or understand. When I see Erica and her strength and her courage, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm. And our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us, you cannot slow us, you cannot stop us, you cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erica in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic.
You have no idea the dragon you have awakened.
I've got one that can sing.
You have no idea the dragon that you have unleashed. What is going on? What is up? I'm trying to get caught up on a few fronts with the news here. I've been kind of out of it this week, getting over a cold, so bear with me if I sound weird. But I'm making this on Thursday evening, October 2nd, and it wasn't until just the other day that I heard a clip of that Stephen Miller speech from the Charlie Kirk Memorial, and I was just blown away by how crazy that rhetoric was. I think I said in my last video that I had it on in the background, but I only listened to the Trump part, and yeah, it was like 5 hours long. So the Stephen Miller part was pretty crazy. The Benny Johnson part was also pretty crazy, but not quite as astounding as the Stephen Miller mega speech. I mean, he was really having his moment in the sun there, I guess. But wow, dude, how do you even... I don't even think it needs any commentary. I'm kind of curious to see like how the left-wing media, because I've seen headlines and thumbnails. I can tell it got a lot of reaction from liberal media, as I think it was intended to do, and that's kind of the whole, that's the theme of this whole thing that I'm talking about here today is the left, right, the pendulum swinging back. Man, I've just been thinking about Yuri Bezmenov all week. If you don't know who Yuri Bezmenov is, you need to know who Yuri Bezmenov, was. One of my best friends turned me on to Yuri years ago, and it is just downright uncanny how his words are just becoming more and more prophetic and profound, almost by the day. He was a former KGB agent who defected to the West and also became a believer in Christ. But he talked to G. Edward Griffin about, how they did subversion, how their whole propaganda kind of campaign worked, and it has a lot of carryover to what we see being done by the globalist system as a whole, and yes, even in the quote-unquote free West.
Ideological subversion, that is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
So I'm going to try and throw some Bezmenov clips in here and some links in the description. And while I was taking a break from the news for a few days, I did listen to some Walter Veith.
How the Order Creates War and Revolution, talking now about Skull and Bones, which is the Illuminati, which is the Jesuits behind the scenes, as we have seen. Operational history of the Order can only be understood within the framework of Hegelian dialectic process. Hegel, the great man who said, always create two directions, thesis, antithesis, rub them up against the other. Who cares how many people die in the process? Then you have synthesis. Then you get what you actually want. From this axiom, it follows that controlled conflict can create a predetermined history. For example, when the Trilateral Commission decided managed conflict, etc., we read this quote before, so I'll just skip it. The synthesis, that's which comes together, sought by the establishment is called the New World Order. Without controlled conflict, this new world order will not come about. Random individual action of persons in society would not lead to this synthesis. It's artificial. Therefore, it has to be created. So you hear about a war here and a war there and a revolution here and a revolution there. Revolutions have to be financed. You never hear where the money comes from to finance them. Who finances the revolutions? Who runs them? You see?
Some good old Walter Veith and the Total Onslaught series. And man, that too, I think, helps kind of bring you back to more of a kind of wide-angle lens on history, which I find incredibly helpful. Obviously, the biggest encouragement is looking at everything from a biblical, angle view, a biblical worldview, an eternal worldview. And I know Walter Veith is a Seventh-day Adventist, and so, take it for what it's worth. His research on Freemasonry, the dialectic, particularly when it comes to war and how wars are financed. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that Walter Veith talks about that is particularly insightful when it comes to not getting swept up in the fervors of war. And it's just crazy how much that quote-unquote memorial for Charlie Kirk really had nothing to even do with memorializing Charlie Kirk one way or the other. It was such a shameless and transparent use of whatever you want to think of Charlie Kirk, and I'm not going to waste time arguing with people all day about whether he was really saved or not, compromised or not, whether he was a Freemason or not. Walter Veith would tell you that Billy Graham was a Freemason, 33rd degree, so that's pretty interesting. I forgot about that. I forgot that Walter Veith definitely claimed that. But yeah, the point is that there's no denying, they're going full steam ahead using this momentum. It's so crazy seeing it on so many levels where I just watched this Pete Hegseth address, the military speech to all the brass.
To our enemies, F-A-F-O.
Which was such a bizarre media stunt, right? Why did they have everybody fly in and they filmed it? Was it really for the brass, or was it for the average right-wing person to get all jazzed about the military again? Because, how much has that been taking a hit after 2 decades of ridiculous wars based on lies and false flags and imperialistic nonsense and poppy fields and whatever else? And then top that all off with mandating the experimental jabs in 2021. And then, of course, all the woke stuff. And the crazy part is, how scripted it really all undeniably is. That's the part that is so surreal. And, you got Trump up there being the MC, doing his shtick. He's cracking jokes. A few weeks ago, he was hanging with Bill Gates and all the tech bros. And just the other day, he was, high-fiving with Albert Bourla over the new pharmaceutical agreement, the pharmaceutical deal or whatever. There's so many things going on. It's crazy, but it is quite the performance. It's interesting here being in Portland, and yeah, Portland's now back in the news along with these other cities where they've been deploying the troops, and I knew this was coming because they've been doing their little Antifa LARPing thing down at the ICE facility for the past few months, and I've kind of been checking in now and then. But like I said, it's so scripted, it's just ridiculous because I knew this was going to happen. It was plain as day. Even though it was about a dozen people or so on any given night, it was just a handful of people. The Portland police could have easily dealt with this on their own so easily at any given time, but they won't. The police will not show up, and all the local residents who live around this little ICE facility have just been at their wits' end. It's basically kind of been like a little, Chaz, like a little no-go zone. I remember in Seattle kind of a few years ago. But at the same time, it's been nothing anywhere near what was going on in 2020 during the BLM riots when they were trying to burn down the federal court building and burn down the police stations in Portland with people inside. It was nuts for months and months here. It was like a war zone. It was like something out of a movie. But this is literally just this little 2-block radius with a handful of... Now it's escalated, now that they brought all this attention to it, which I knew they were going to do. But they just had to keep it going. They just had to keep It's crazy. It's so wag the dog. This Antifa stuff, and Antifa being, you know, deemed a terrorist organization. I mean, anyways. So you got all that going on, and it's like the Republicans, the right-wingers, they're getting their day in the sun. They're getting to see all the woke, you know, all the liberals get their kick in the fat bottoms.
But look at this. If you cross the line, you do the time. And now this guy's going into the ICE facility. Look at that. He's going backwards. He wanted to leave. That's why he was facing the other direction. But nope, he's inside now. That blue line right there, you cross that line, you're trespassing government property, you get busted. Boy, they don't like getting arrested. For as much violence as these people spout, they do not like getting arrested. But they're all tough now. But when they get arrested, they're like, help me, help me.
And it's kind of entertaining, and they're cheering on the idea of troops in the street. It is surreal to see that they have pulled this off. They have pulled off setting such a precedent over such stupid pretexts that were so easily avoidable. But they wanted this to happen, and I think, and the crazy thing is that, yes, both sides are complicit. Like, if Tina Kotek and the mayor of Portland, I don't remember the new mayor's name, but if they were really serious about keeping the federal troops out, why didn't they lift a finger? They're like, because they're just so, I mean, maybe they are just so averse to even appearing like they're helping ICE that they won't even police their own city. That's it. I mean, the thing is like, yeah, living here on the West Coast, I get it. I get why so many people are so fed up with the quote-unquote woke bullshit. Pardon my French. Because it has just become a nightmare in so many ways. Whether it's your kids going to school and getting indoctrinated with all the rainbow brainwashing, or, you know, you live in the city and you can't even take your kids to the park because it's full of needles and drug addicts, people living on the sidewalks, and they just release criminals over and over again. And yeah, it is order ab chaos. It's not hard to figure out. It's been done on purpose. They unleashed it in 2020. And after 4 years, both on the streets of every major city, every blue city, which is pretty much every city, and through all the corporate means, through all the DEI, they've been pumping it into the universities, and everybody is sick of it. Everybody is so sick of it, and they're so ready to be done that that's all they can think about. And that it's amazing to watch it, even though to have known that this is like the play, that this is how it works, to see it happening is kind of the most amazing thing to observe. To kind of know that, like, that pendulum is going to swing, and speaking out about it, it's not for the sake of trying to stop that pendulum. It's just like every other time, it's just reaching out for those individuals who hopefully can see through the deception and see through the propaganda, the two-sided dialectical propaganda, and see a deeper truth and see a deeper agenda going on, and ultimately to find eternal truth, eternal salvation, but to not get swept up in one side or the other of this faulty civil war. And this is what's crazy, dude. Okay, so I watched that Pete Hegseth speech, and I was just tripping out because I was like, yeah, this seems like a weird, you know, kind of moment. Like this is being done for obviously for a very specific reason, though I'm not sure exactly what that is. And in my own ponderings, I'm kind of just thinking that maybe it's about trying to, you know, get people recruited back into the military so that they can go finish what they started in Iran or wherever else. You know, that's probably part of it. But then I see that Richie from Boston just posted a video about the Hegseth speech, and so I was very curious what he had to say, and I guess it should have occurred to me, but it really didn't until I heard him explain this.
He says lots and lots of things like F-A-F-O, you know, F around and find out. Something that, you know, the Department of War guy should be saying. But basically what he said in this entire video was, no more transgenders, no more generals or colonels wearing dresses, no more anything that makes the United States Army the joke, or the United States military the joke that it's turned into, with all these blue-haired people, and drill sergeants can't yell at you anymore. You just hold up your stress card. Wasn't like that when I was in basic training. Everything that they've done for the last, I don't know, 20 years to make our military into an underfunded joke, they're going to fix it all. But here's the best part. They're also going to make sure anybody that wants to join the Army, male or female, also has to meet females coming in. They have to have the same test evaluations as men, which they won't be able to pass because they're not men. You see, the military changed the join the military rules for women, or for transgenders, or for people that were just crybaby pussies. They're going to change all that. And they're going to make everybody that's in the military, everybody, including all 800 of those admirals and generals and dudes that haven't done physical training since they became a colonel or whatever. Everyone's going to do PT. Everyone's going to pass a fitness test. It sounds like a great idea. But what it's going to do is cause division, and it's already begun because rumors were already circulating in the military, which is how there's a few people that could leave a comment where I told you what they were going to do in person, but don't say it. But the military's already splitting. They're doing this to literally turn the military into factions, because you can't have a good old-fashioned civil war unless you have the military or parts of it in certain areas like California, Florida, backing the people. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly and only what they're setting this up for, is so that it splits the military down the middle, because certain commanders can get their hands on a whole battalion and all the weaponry and all the well, just like this.
We're already calling it the greatest victory in the history of military campaigns. Today, I can announce that the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great loss, a very great defeat at the hands of the fighting men and women of the United States military. The people of Texas and California should know that they will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed.
You see, the movie Civil War, the movie Leave the World Behind, all movies that, even the movie Snake Eyes that seems to mirror Charlie Kirk's assassination perfectly, these are all part of their black magic. You see what I'm saying? This is all part of the satanic magic. This is the reason they need all the small children that go missing every year. In the movie Civil War, they're showing you what it's going to look like. And in the movie Civil War, what you're seeing, the soldiers walking by and such, these are all soldiers that turned on the U.S. government, and they commandeered all the equipment, which is exactly what Hegseth planted the seeds. Because not only is he telling all these generals, admirals, all the people in charge, not only is he telling them that everything's going back to the way it used to be back in 1990, that they all have to get off their asses and start doing exercise and things of that nature. They're going to have some serious people turning their backs on them, and it's going to happen soon. You think this is all just a coincidence that the entire country's being stirred up? And right now, right this minute, we now have soldiers on the ground in Memphis, Tennessee. So we've got Memphis, Tennessee, we've got Washington, D.C., we've got Portland, Oregon. Troops, 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 and it's going to continue. It's going to keep going, it's going to continue. And then apparently we're getting ready to start with Venezuela, which will cause, well, it won't cause, it'll allow them to start doing attacks on the border states, Arizona, California, Texas, etc. They'll do attacks and then blame it on, whoever they blame it on, because that's what they do. Understand this. This is, like I said, this is all happening, but this was a huge step right now, because they're literally going to usher in the movie Civil War into real life. That's all this guy was talking about.
And so I gotta admit, I hope he's wrong. Richie, for the record, I hope you are wrong, and I hope all of your military contact friends are totally wrong on this one. But overall, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and yeah, this is why I'm glad Richie knows a lot of ex-military dudes who can actually give their insight on things. I know a few besides Richie, but I haven't talked to them in a while. You know who you are. Hit me up if you got any insight into this too. But the weird part is that, yeah, it's so performative. You know, it's for the public. Like, they could have done this whole thing internally or in a much more nuanced way, in a much more diplomatic way. But no, it was done in a very kind of provocative and I was just kind of reading it like, oh, it's just they're sticking it to the woke. And this is all just getting the right-wing side all hopped up on the, like, yeah, like, the woke department's over. It's the war department. You know, getting everyone all, like, hard on for war, right? It's all, like, masculine. All the years of men being told that, like, their toxic masculinity is, you know, something to be ashamed of. It's like all of that. It's feeding on so many years of all that propaganda in the one direction. All the toxic masculinity, all the woke, rainbow, gay, no bullying in schools, like, all of it. All of it. And they're just, like, unleashing it. It's amazing. This is an amazing like, I feel like we are watching something akin to what happened in the 30s. Like, I'm not even... This is astounding. And yet it's theater. It's absolute theater, but yeah, to what end? And so it is interesting to think that, yeah, there probably are, because I was thinking about that point too, like when he said, we can't have fat generals walking around, like, haven't we always had fat generals who are walking around in the behind enemy lines and at the Pentagon, and maybe not fat, but yeah, they're not crawling through foxholes or whatever. So it was a little excessively rude and antagonistic beyond just to the woke stuff. But of course there's going to be generals and, you know, higher ups who are progressives and offended by a lot of what he said. And so, yeah, how much of it was it just show for the sake of the goyim to get them to join up and go die in one last big hurrah for Uncle Sam? And how much of it was to feed this narrative of an internal faction civil war? I mean, that is a crazy thought, but I mean, it sounds crazy, but yeah, however they staged or carried out or orchestrated the Charlie Kirk JFK 2.0 that we all just lived through, that's pretty insane. It's pretty unhinged. Just so you could turn around and spew all this rhetoric and put on this big performance. I mean, these people have no shame. You can't put anything past them at this point. So, yeah, Richie, I hope you're wrong, you know, for all of our sakes. But we have been talking about this, you know, this predictive programming. And the more you kind of really learn about how war really operates, it really always is just, it's a pretext for taking care of other problems. And a lot of times it is civilians, it is the, you know, it's just being able to create that fog of war that is so valuable. You can get away with all kinds of stuff in the middle of a fog of war.
Mazzini with Pike developed a plan for 3 world wars so that eventually every nation would be willing to surrender its national sovereignty to a world government. The first war was to end the Tsarist regime in Russia, the second to allow the Soviet Union to control Europe, the third world war was to be in the Middle East between Muslim and Jews and would result in Armageddon. Interesting.
There was no grassroots revolution. Actually, there are no grassroots revolutions, period. Any revolution is a byproduct of a highly organized group of conscientious and professional organizers, but has nothing to do with grassroots.
And when you stop and think about, like, how, yeah, in reality, they've been investing all this money in AI and in the drone technology and in all this, like, basically building Skynet. It's like at the Terminator prequel movies that we never saw, where we get to live through them. So the whole idea of, like, oh, we need troops to be in shape on the battlefield, you know, because, why? Because they're gonna run around and try and shoot drones out of the sky? Like, yeah, how's... The whole nature of warfare is changing so rapidly, and yet they want to go back to the 1990s standards of... So there is kind of a big contradiction there, you know, when it's like, okay, the drone operators are sitting in a little air-conditioned room on the other side of the world from where they're quote-unquote fighting. Yeah, why do they need to be in shape again, exactly? Couldn't women do that just as easily as men? It doesn't make any sense. And it's undeniable that they are not putting troops in American cities one at a time to deal with the crime or to deal with immigration or to protect the immigration officers or any, it's pretty transparently bullcrap. And yeah, they can foment things and send in their little Antifa agent provocateurs or just, half these people just show up on their own because they have nothing else to do. As sad as that seems, it is true that there are people who are, this is just their programming playing itself out too. But yeah, it's also weird because Vadi Bakum just died. And I didn't even really, I feel like there's been so many things that I just haven't even really been paying attention to. I had no idea that he was even advocating for Christian nationalism in his own way and kind of part of this whole movement that now has been sucked up into the TPUSA machine. And I liked Vadi Bakum. And I really liked his teaching on amillennialism, actually, and other things. But looking back, it's weird how I can kind of follow a lot of the arguments that he made, and he was a guest with Allie Beth Stuckey and people like that, and talking about the boogeyman of Christian nationalism and like, what would you prefer? Would you prefer Marxism? And it's like, you're kind of giving that's a false dichotomy. Right? Like, these are your only two options. What kind of nationalism do you want? If you don't want Christian nationalism, I mean, you gotta have some kind of nationalism. You live in a nation. Don't you want your nation to be Christian? And I think it's weird how you can get into these discussions and these debates and kind of go into this weird abstract, setting where you compartmentalize it from like everything that's going on in the real world and in our real time. Because it's like, well, what about the early Christians? The early church, was it right for Constantine to just take God and make him the sign by which he shall conquer? Just put the cross on all the Roman shields? Just Christianize the whole Roman Empire? All the legions, all the armies, all the temples? I mean, essentially, isn't that what aren't you actually defending the same idea if you're saying that, well, like, shouldn't we have crosses on our drones? Shouldn't we have a Christian Palantir? I mean, that's essentially what Peter Thiel is trying to rationalize in his mind, which is fascinating. That he's literally a real guy who's really out there trying to theologize and rationalize, why creating Skynet and being a gay billionaire working for the deep state is like convincing himself that he's fighting the Antichrist or fighting Armageddon or finding a lesser of two evils or something. And it's like, no, I mean, that's kind of how the whole thing works. That's what every dialectic does. It's like, well, just pick the lesser of two evils. Is that what God calls us to do? No. This whole thing of like latching on to the Charlie Kirk thing, I think it is kind of a weird, emotional kind of thing to rally around, and the idea of, oh, look at all the people singing about God, look at all the people talking about Jesus, saying the name of Jesus, look at all the people going to church. I mean, and that's praise God, but look at what Trump and his whole cabinet are also doing. If Trump is at the center of all this, and Trump being more of just a brand, a narrative, a figure through which Hegseth and MAGA and TPUSA and Maha and all this stuff is just an extension of all these, the right wing of the New World Order bird, the Trumpian side, the magician. I forget what I was even saying. Yeah, it's just amazing watching it happen. Yeah, I don't have a ton of deep analysis today. Like I said, I was like literally like in bed for 2 days, and it was head sinus cold and body aches, and I haven't been sick like that in years. It wasn't COVID or nothing like that. But the weird thing was that like last Sunday, they were chemtrailing like crazy, dude. And I hadn't seen any trails in the sky in months, really. All summer long, it was pretty darn clear. Nice and beautiful normal clouds, and then I'm coming home from the store, and then bam, they were just everywhere and just, bleeding out all over, and it was just, you're just like, ugh. And then that night, my throat started to kind of feel scratchy. And then, Sunday night, Monday, I just felt like, oh, I got a sore throat. And then Tuesday, I was like, can barely move. And so I don't know if it's like, maybe they're, you're just detoxing from whatever they're pumping into the sky. I mean, it's funny because that sounded crazy to me once upon a time. Like, even after I learned about other conspiracy stuff, I was still like rolling my eyes at chemtrails for a few years. And now it's like, dude, it's one of the most undeniable things. You can see evidence of it probably more than almost any other thing. You don't even have to like see it on the news. You can just see it over your head like all the time. But it was weird to be like, it's been sunny for months. There was chemtrails Sunday, like mega chemtrails. And then that's when the rain came in. That's when the weather changed. Boom. And then I get this crazy cold. And then my allergies are going off. It's just been a weird week. So lift me up in your prayers if you want. I'm feeling much better than I was, but I'm still not 100%. So, but yeah, I wanted to put something together. I've basically been trying to do about a video a week. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Between like half hour to an hour, depending on the topic and stuff, but kind of been getting into a rhythm finally. Only took me 10 years, so hopefully I feel like I can kind of maintain this for as long as God wants me to do this. So thanks for your prayers and your support and your feedback. My email is in the description if you want to reach out. You know, I try and engage with the comments, and I'm trying to kind of, just be more disciplined with it, and I really appreciate all of you for listening and for just being in the fight together. So thanks for your support. If you want to support the channel on Patreon or PayPal, you got to go to the About page because the links in the description, YouTube is blocking them or whatever. So that's where you find that. But I just appreciate you guys, and I'm hoping to kind of just basically get one out. I think every Friday. I'm aiming for Fridays, but Friday or Saturday, you know, and that way it's kind of like you have the weekend to kind of watch it at your leisure and all that. So hopefully that is a step in the right direction, and I think that's about it. Peace through strength, man. The War Department. I mean, it's so corny. It's hard to even believe that what you're watching is quote-unquote real, even though it's theater. It's real theater. Whatever that even means. I don't even know. Praise God that He's in control, and that this country is not my inheritance. Our hope is in a heavenly inheritance, and that can never be taken away from us. And He promises to be with us through whatever we might go through, as crazy as it might get, or as weird as it might get. Alright, can we play some loud music now? Alright, let's do it.
All the words he said sounded great. Most people, if you read the comments, people are loving it. Totally loving it. Right over here at the Department of War YouTube channel. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. True courage does not mean being able to take a life. We're not talking about hot yoga and stretching. This is the best thing I've heard since 2019. This presentation is simple and true. Our troops should be in shape and meet more physical standards. I hear you. And you know what? That goes without saying. They are the ones that completely screwed up the military. They're the ones that dropped the standards, that dropped the regulations, that allowed colonels to go and publicly post themselves wearing dresses and things like that. They allowed that. Quid pro quo. Order ab cow. Those two phrases are all you ever need to know. Order out of chaos. How do they gain from this? All of this is going to play out, and now it makes sense that the people that were contacting me that I had to go meet face to face, because you can't trust technology in any way whatsoever at all. You can't even have your phone on you. It sounds paranoid, but I mean, we told you your phones were tracking you, and everyone called us crazy, and then COVID showed up, and now it's just, oh yeah, no big deal. Yeah, your phone's tracking you. It's just a thing. No big deal. Yeah, we were conspiracy theorists. Now it's completely true. They're bringing everything into position right now. Our government, our Department of War, is going to focus inward. That's what they told the rest of the world. All right, China, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, whatever. You guys all do your thing. Israel will keep paying for that. We got you. No worries, we'll keep paying for that because, you know, we're all Zionists. We're all Zionists. They're bringing everything back home, and people need to be ready for this because this is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's simply showcasing their plans, and they're telling us their plans. When I listened to his speech this morning, it's 45 minutes long. It's a long speech, and it sounds good, but it makes zero sense when you think about where we're at right now and why all of a sudden our military machine needs to be focused on America and South America. Because, like the Bible tells us, they need their 10 kingdoms. So Trump is going to solidify North and South America, and then there you go. You know what I mean? It's crazy, but that's what the Hegseth meeting was about. It was so he could look them right in the eye and tell them these things. Some of the guys are like, awesome. Some of these guys are like, I'm wearing women's panties right now, and I weigh 270 pounds. Well, guess what? You're not going to pass PT or physical training. You're just not. And the body weight ratio is actually crazy because it's from like the 1950s. But these guys, I mean, all of a sudden your cushion jobs are over. Guess how many of them are going to turn? Guess how many are going to turn? This is crazy. This is crazy. But there, as they say, is that. There's your answer. That's what Hegseth did. And I'm telling you that from a position of authority because I heard about this before this even happened. I thought it might have been a setup to take them all out, but that is not the case whatsoever at all.